What's up, everybody? Renfail here. Hopefully, you are doing well today. I am doing something I don't normally do, which is reacting to someone else's content. It's pretty rare for me to do this. I've only done this a couple times over the years. But Cohhcarnage did a sit-down interview with Joel Bylos, who is the creative director on Dune Awakening, chief creative officer of Funcom, on all things related to Dune Awakening right after the live stream, which happened yesterday, live stream number 4. I saw this pop up yesterday, and I had a bunch of community members in Discord and on the stream this morning saying, "Hey, did you check out Cohhcarnage's interview? It's got a lot of really interesting stuff in there related to PvE and the end game and like Deep Desert and stuff." And since everybody knows I'm a PvE player, this sounds like it's got some more information relevant to the type of gameplay experience that I enjoy Dune Awakening, and it's stuff that I haven't heard, and it's direct from Joel himself. So we're going to sit down. It's about 36 minutes long, so expect to see 45 minutes or so as we sit down and go through this together. Shout out to Cohhcarnage. Go follow him on all his channels. I've talked about him a lot. I use him as a reference point for a lot of different things. He's definitely inspired me in my journey as a streamer and content creator. So, without further ado, we're going to dive in and listen to what Joel has to say as he does an interview with Cohhcarnage over on his channel. And I'll shrink myself down, move that out of the way.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Bit drained. Just did a long, long stream.
Yeah, that was pretty long. That was pretty long.
I mean, not as. I mean, I'm talking to a pro here, so I think I'm.
Well,
probably you're laughing at my pathetic, 1.5 hour stream.
Well, the difference is I get to just sit around and act like a fool. You have to actually do things and convey information. It's a very different experience. So
Sure.
Anyway, let's go ahead and get started here. And actually, while we're doing this, give me just 1 second. I'm going to bring up some Dune Awakening gameplay from my beta, I think, because I had a great time in that beta. And
Nice.
we're going to bring some of that up while we're talking here. So it's not just our talking heads. All right. There we go. Cool. So first of all, I would like to just say how it's incredibly refreshing to have developers that I feel really bring that kind of human element to their job, especially what you said at the end of that. Really appreciate you guys being so kind of transparent and open about that. I mean, those are really valid, real concerns. We live in a very interesting day and age, especially with game dev, and it's good to know that there's people that are kind of rooted in that. So we appreciate it.
Yeah. No. Thanks. Yeah. No. I mean, it's the reality, right? Like we build these teams, and this industry can be so I don't know, cruel in a way. And I don't mean like in the sense. It's just that making games is hard, right? Every game's a miracle. People talk about that all the time, and I think it's like. You make 10,000 choices along the way, and you try to make the right ones. And some games just don't make the right ones, and that's it's just sad every time, right? So, yeah, it's what makes me nervous about launching, right? It's just like, did we make the right choices? But the beta made me happy in that sense, in that I feel
Beta
like
was great. I mean,
some
I've
of the
had a great
things
time
that
in the
we
closed
fought
beta, but the
for,
beta weekend has been
like it would have been so
phenomenal as well.
easy. So many times along the way that I got feedback from people like, make the sandworm easy. Don't let it take people's stuff. Right, like don't have that be a full loss moment. And I had to fight, like as a creative director, I had to stand there and say no, right? And my game director right beside me, leaning over and going, "Don't give in, don't give in. It doesn't matter." Right? And like, but these are the battles you fight because, And so yeah, it's like we made these 10,000 decisions, and we're about to find out the consequences. And I'm nervous about how it's going to go, but I hope it pays off. Right? That's it. And yeah. It's because it isn't just me. It's not my big ugly mug that, It's like all the people on this team. It's all of their work.
And how big is your team now?
I mean, we started with 30 people, and I think we're up to around 400-ish across the board.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's gotten big, and that's mostly growth across the last 5 years, right? So
yeah, how cool. Yeah, a little anecdote. Back when I used to live in North Carolina. I worked at a university, and one of the people I worked with actually left to go work at Funcom, which was pretty fun. So I got some cool stories about how that was working out and everything. So here's the thing. You guys have been great, especially you. You guys have been great about going out there, doing interviews. In fact, you pinged Expedition 33 during your stream, which was really cool because you guys remind me a lot of them in terms of how you guys have been really getting out there and being transparent and very
We had
genuine.
great Q&A with Joel and Ole the other day too, which
so that
was
being
awesome.
said, I know that most of kind of the overarching questions have probably been asked to you. So one of the things I'd love to do for our interview is kind of talk about a lot about what we just saw. I actually have a lot of questions that I'd love to not only get answers on, but also kind of get your design thinking on.
So I'm going to pause here for a second because what they're talking about is in relation to live stream number 4, which aired yesterday. I'm currently recording this on the 29th of May, 2025. So if you haven't watched the footage yet, I cut down live stream number 4 yesterday. We did a watch party, and then after the watch party, I cut that down into 5 or 6 different videos for each different segment. So there's a section talking about like the new combat. There's a section talking about the Landsrad and the Landsrad trailer. There's a section about the mid game, and then there's a section on the end game and the deep desert, and then there's the Q&A section. So if you want to know more about what they're talking about when they reference what they just saw, they're speaking of live stream number 4, and I am 100% going to plug my own stuff because we did our watch party and I cut a bunch of videos for that yesterday. So you can check all that stuff out in the playlist down below.
What's your perspective on it?
Yeah.
So
100%.
going back to the beginning here. So some of these you did kind of answer. I wrote them as we were doing it. So if you addressed it later, you can just feel it.
Yeah.
So one big thing I kind of wanted to get into is the design thinking behind the Landsrad system. Now, I am a previous Guild Wars 2 player. I played on release. And in that system, there was in that game at the beginning, there was a system called the Orbs. And basically what you could do is go out into the PvP area, accomplish goals for your side, and then if you were able to retrieve the orbs, it made you stronger. Now, I noticed in the rewards for the Landsrad system, I saw things like 30% extra melee damage, some big bonuses. And I'm assuming, first quick question, all of those bonuses go into PvP, right?
It's all the faction.
Okay.
So everybody is aligned on the entire world, not just in PvP.
Okay.
But it goes into PvP as well. But yes.
So the thinking here is in Guild Wars 2, they ended up removing that system because it was making the winners stronger. And what it was doing is making it so like they just kept winning. There was no system to counterbalance it because they were gaining strength by winning. And this kind of ties into that question that somebody asked about the unique weaponry. Like, how that plays into it. So my thinking is, my question is, how are you counterbalancing that? Right now, from what we saw, the winners are getting stronger. So what are the losers getting?
So I alluded to like that we have sort of a balancing system that runs a bit behind the scenes. So if a faction is becoming too dominant, there's changes in the tasks for the other side.
They become like non-PvP related kind of thing?
Yeah.
Well, so
that's part of it.
None of the tasks right now in the Landsrad are 100% PvP.
It's a mix.
Just to be clear about that, right? I don't think that was obvious, maybe.
No, yeah, I definly thought it was mostly PvP.
No,
it sounded
it's not.
like the end game thing.
It's kind of the opposite, I would say. What every Landsrad square on that board is asking for about 70,000 points. The way you achieve those points is through multiple different things. One of them is taking a control point in the deep desert, which is a PvP. And then you earn 10 points per hour that you hold a control point, right?
Okay.
Adding up.
Okay.
But there's another task under that, which is deliver 5 fully crafted ornithopters to the quartermaster. And that gets you 700 points per ornithopter.
And that's PvE.
The people who like to craft and participate, it has nothing to do with PvP for them. It's just that they have to go out, mine resources, and craft these ornithopters to deliver. And so there's multiple tasks per Landsrad square that can be achieved. All of them contain some PvE tasks. All of them have a PvP component as well. So you can choose your activity and how you participate. So that's why I was saying to the guy's question and sort of the same thing here. Like, yes, okay, our faction has a 33% damage bonus. Everybody in our faction has that this week, this Landsrad period. And the other faction might choose to focus on the non-combat tasks because it will help them, right?
So theoretically, someone could join a guild as a support member.
Yes.
That, let's say, has some accessibility things that make it so they can't do PvP because, one of their hands isn't working properly. And they could still completely participate every week by just focusing on the non-combat stuff.
100%. That is the goal, right?
Okay. I would also like to take a minute here and break this down even further because I've gotten a lot of questions about this as well. People who have been assuming that the end game of Dune Awakening was all PvP. It's not. If you go down and break down the actual squares that he was talking about in the Landsrad video, the trailer, it shows like a big square and there's like a big board and there's like 25, 30 squares on that board. If you hover over each one, there's like 5 to 7 tasks or whatever he says, and each one has different things. The reality is if one side is getting stronger, because this got asked by someone in Twitch this morning during the stream, what happens if one side is winning? And I alluded to what he's talking about here. I said, well, let's just assume that they got the damage bonus. That only applies for the people who are going to be participating in the PvP against them. Everybody might decide that, hey, the Harkonnen have a 33% damage bonus this month. We're not even going to attempt to do PvP battles against them. All of the guilds that are on the Atreides side are going to go do non-PvP stuff this week. And we're going to win the Landsrad through crafting and through resource gathering and through non-PvP objectives. And they can win the Landsrad that way. There are multiple ways to win the Landsrad votes without participating in PvP at all. It's brilliant. It's and like he said, he would like Joel said, I would argue that it's more PvE related than it is PvP related because only like the control points are really the PvP objectives. And of course, going and getting the spice can be a little bit dangerous, but there's like all these crafting and resource gathering things that have nothing to do with PvP.
Okay.
The system works so that people can be involved. Yeah.
I like that. Another quick thing going to the unique weapons thing. I think there may have been an unintentional like if then in there that made it sound like it wasn't as nearly cool as I think it is. Because at one point somebody said, will unique weapons give somebody a sense of power? And the response was, no, unique weapons aren't that powerful. Don't worry about it, essentially. But then that made me go like, but wait a second. Don't I want the carrot on the stick of getting the unique weapons? Like, aren't they significantly more powerful? And that's why I want them. So I was wondering like what exactly are unique weapons? Are we talking like gameplay differences or just like updated versions of powers?
So I think it's one of the things that our economy team has done a good job with is trying to make the unique weapons actually feel like they do different things, not just like add stat. Right, add stat is again, I call us morons because we try to do hard things. This is one of them. So instead of add stat,
I've been here since Anarchy Online. I know you guys bite off so much more than you can chew. It's great.
We always do. So this is like so one of the things is like the assault rifle you get. There's a unique assault rifle type that you get, and it's called the Stammer Shot. I think I was playing with it yesterday, so it's fresh in my mind. The Stammer Shot fires 3 bullets instead of instead of a burst, it fires 3 bullets on its own, so it has a completely different.
Oh, like 3 in 1, like not like do.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Right, exactly. So it feels very different as a weapon. It's a unique weapon. It acts and behaves differently to other things, right? And then there's so you get, so all of the uniques in the game have kind of some level of this, like, how does it change gameplay a little bit as well? They definitely feel different and unique, which is kind of the point.
Yeah.
And that's always been the goal. But yeah, so people will want the unique. So I'm not saying that. I think what we're saying is, I think Scott was pointing out that the PvE content in the game does not require you to have the highest tier weapons to do it right now. It's not like, so to take a classic MMORPG example, right? In World of Warcraft, you go and you get the best dungeon gear so you can run the first basic raids. Run those raids to get the extra small amount of percentage so you can continue running raids to get better and better at raids. That's not how we've set things up here right now. So I think what Scott was trying to say was that you don't need it, but people will always want it because that's just.
I was going to say now I believe you, and I'm gonna let you finish. But as a PvE player, I do need the best gear. In fact, I need the best PvP gear on my PvE character because I do.
So this goes back to somebody had asked this yesterday, but what about the fact that I do want that specialty gear from the deep desert? I do want the T6 stuff because I like the look of it. So they mentioned this yesterday. They said you do not need any of the T6, which currently T6 is the highest level gear in the game. When the game launches, T6 is the highest level gear. Tier 6. That's the deep desert gear. You do not need T6 gear to complete the story of the game. You can do 100% of the game with just the normal stuff that you can get and earn and craft and quest and get from drops in the base gameplay loop that is Dune Awakening. The Deep Desert is T6, that is the end game. That is what you do after you have finished the main storyline and everything else. And the gear in that zone is like icing on the cake. It is extra fluff that you can go get. And if you are a PvE player who wants it because it looks cool and it's the next step up and it's gear progression and you love gear progression, then you can absolutely go work on those things. But you do not have to participate in PvP because you can always buy the components from the broker from other players. But the eco labs, the PvE eco labs, are located in the deep desert. The T6 ones, not the normal ones. The T6 eco labs are in the deep desert. So to get to the PvE deep desert eco labs, you're going to have to take the risk of traveling through PvP territory to get to those places in the first place. So there is a level of risk involved, even if you're not actively participating in the PvP. Like you don't have to be doing control points, you know what I mean, to get T6 gear. So it's worth pointing that out.
Yep, and that's
Okay.
where I think people are scared, but I think it's going to work out, right? Like that's
Cool.
how it is. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. So here, this deep desert concept is incredibly interesting to me. You know, I go back and I think of like some almost like Darkness Falls stuff from DAOC and kind of how that's working with the washing back and forth. In your vision, how much stuff in the deep desert is like one-time use kind of stuff? And let me explain what I mean by that. If I have a mechanic in a game like a deep desert, I want to make, one of the first things I do in my mind is I make a checklist. I say, okay, here's the stuff I need to do. So I know I can go and get the repeatable harvesting like spice. I know I can go and get, but I noticed that there were like lots of other objectives spawning on there. Things like derelict caves and skill points and stuff like that. Is there going to be a way for me to know like how much of the deep desert I've done? Like something I can like a running tally of, you know, what I need to do each week and what's
I'm
left
going to let
to do
Joel
and
answer,
stuff like that,
'cause
or is it more
they
of just
answer
big
this in the live
mysterious,
stream.
you guys are just going to let players figure it out kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it's going to be players figuring it out.
Oh.
That's kind of the right. So there's like you won't know what drops in what eco lab, right? In the beginning, you'll have to go and chart that out, and then that layout might not come up again may never come up again, right? That's kind of the goal, to have infinite exploration, not
That's a
repeat layouts every
worthy
single
goal.
yeah. So the plan is to try and like, and as I was saying, we keep sprinkling things in so it becomes more and more over time, because I think like what we have is like I always say this to people, and it's kind of a cop out, but it's a true statement. The game we're launching is the worst the game will ever be.
Yeah, it's a
That's
live
the
service
reality,
game.
if you know what I mean.
They're always
right? Like,
that way at launch.
because the game you launch with in a live game, and then you keep adding to it. And I
already
know
said
you've
it.
said this about Funcom in the past as well. We keep working on our games till they're
You do.
better.
You do.
Right? So our game will launch, the launch version of the game. I think it's pretty good, but it's still going to be the worst version because we're going to keep working on it.
Let's
about the
just
deep
not
desert
hope
is-
for a catastrophic patch, but I'm with you.
Yeah. You know what
I know what you're talking
I guess
about.
what I'm trying
It
to
moves
say
forward.
is
It keeps moving forward. You keep building. It keeps building. Yeah.
my job is to be optimistic. So I'm
You're doing a great
I'm
job.
assuming we're not going to have catastrophic patches, but like the deep desert in the same sense is also like, this is the most barren it will ever be because we're going to keep adding to it, right?
But I also want to pause here for a minute because he hasn't. The question didn't get directly answered, which was how many of these things are one-time use versus. So, in the deep desert explanation video they showed, where the Coriolis storms come through and they wipe everything out, they showed 3 iterations in that video of the deep desert after a Coriolis storm had come in and wiped everything off the map, and every single time, all the POIs change. The location of the POIs change. The types of POIs showing up completely change. So those deep desert, and remember the deep desert is massive and is built up of many, many, many quadrants, which have to be scanned and mapped out so that you can find the POIs, which is why reconnaissance is such a huge thing. And like buying recent maps off of the broker and things of that nature. So they already answered that pretty in-depthly in yesterday's live stream, which I think is in the I've got that in the video on like the in-game Deep Desert Lands Rad section. But they showed off like how the POIs are changing every week, and I think he's about to talk about how they're continually going to be adding to that over time.
Right over time. So I don't think players will have a checklist. I think people will build them very quickly.
Yeah, yeah. So
I see already in closed beta, people are already like coming up with ways to show off their deep desert plan to other people already. So yeah.
and that's like where this interesting kind of schism happens, because like I look at the world map of the starting area as my solo player, and I'm seeing 0 of 1 intel here. You've gotten 2 of 3 things here, and I'm going, oh man, I want to do map completion. Like I want to crawl through this game. I want to 100% it. But then you come up to a mechanic like the deep desert, and you can't play the game that way.
You can't.
There's no 100%ing it. There's no, like when you go out and explore, you can't really go out with an objective because you don't know what's there. So
I mean, unless you're in the loop, right?
Yeah,
and your guild buddy's gone and made you a sync chart, and you log in when you can play, and you open the chest, and there's a bunch of sync charts there, and it's every sector of the deep desert mapped, and you're like, okay, well now I know there's 5 eco labs in the deep desert this week. And I'm looking for unique schematics that our guild might want to sell on the exchange, so that's what we're going to do today.
Cool.
Right?
So the idea is just the deep desert's going to have this giant pool of resources you can't get anywhere else, and you basically need to. Okay, that's very cool. I like that. So you can make those lists. It's just more on kind of the private side, and you guys aren't going to do it for us. Makes sense. I like it.
Yeah, we're not going to do the 100% completion thing like we do in Hager Basin, because we.
That's exactly what I was wondering. If there was like a system like that for the deep desert. Cool. So
there's not. Yeah.
Here's some other questions about the deep desert that I'm very interested in. So there's all sorts of things we could talk about mega guilds and mega griefing guilds. And of course, we have guild limit set to 32, but players will find a way around that. They'll have a 32 guild of officers, and each one manages their own 32-player guild, et cetera, et cetera.
Quick commercial break, everyone, to celebrate and give thanks to all of these amazing people who keep me on the air full time. Really appreciate the support. All you got to do is join as a member. You get access to private videos. You can also do super thanks on any upload, or super chats and stickers on any live stream or premiere you see. And beyond that, don't forget we're multi-streaming over on Twitch now, so you can support over there as well. Thanks so much to everybody. Let's get back to the video at hand.
So now, granted, it's going to be really hard for them to all get on the same server, I'm sure. So the idea of, but here's my question. When I'm a solo player and I do want to participate in this, am I going to have tools to hide myself, to stay in stealth, to reduce how far enemies can detect me? Like you guys said there was ratting. Is there mechanics for that? Or is it just like, man, I hope I get lucky and don't get within 300 meters of an ornithopter and have an icon pop up above my head kind of thing?
I don't think there's any icons.
Mechanics are mechanics, right? Like there's deliberate decisions like we made about like not having name tags and things like that. You can hide against the backdrop of the world, because you aren't visible to players, right? Like it's not like. And then I'm sort of getting ahead of myself, but when we're working in some of the Fremen stuff in the future, there'll definitely be ways to do what the Fremen do, bury yourself in sand and things like that.
Okay.
So there'll be mechanics around that are coming. But I don't think like there's a specific like we don't have an invisibility mode or a stealth mode that hides you right now. It's more about like how do you approach entering the deep desert? How do you make sure that like it's interesting in closed beta because there's a lot of discussions around these kind of tactics and how people do things. It's also people. It's interesting because a lot of people who don't go to the deep desert complain about the deep desert, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
Because people say, "Oh, I just don't want to get ganked," and then other people are like, "I go there all the time and nobody's around. I don't know what you're talking about because like because I can sneak out and get things and come back." So the rat playstyle exists. I don't think we've done anything specifically to support it. So I'll freely admit that. But I think that the game lends itself, and the decision we made to make this really big. This is why we even developed server meshing tech.
Especially because there's no name tags visible.
Because very large space means
no one can tag you. Like there's no icon that you can tag. The general core of the philosophy for PvP in our game is fight over things. Don't go around ruining other people's time. And yes, I can't prevent it, right? That's just a mentality some people have. But that's why we have spice blowers that are giant and you can see them in the distance because we're drawing people to a location. That's why we have control points. We're drawing people to a location. We want people to be drawn to locations and we want them to fight each other over those things. What we're
what we're trying to do is support people who don't want to be involved, not only sneaking in and getting out, but also I think one of the things that we've done that is fairly consistent across the game is that we've made player mobility very high. So you can be chased, you can escape, especially if you're like a solo player with a boosted.
It's one of my favorite parts of the game. Even just the jetpack and the grappling hook, man. That's a whole different level of mobility. Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff's been fun. Yeah, and fun watching people play with it. Like I know you're friends with Chris Sacriel. He was just right into it straight away as soon as he found that in the game. It was crazy.
Yep. I completely see it. I completely see it. So the deep desert, do all resources spawn and or respawn in the deep desert, or on every refresh is there ever something that can only be used or picked up once?
Yes, sorry. During the week things respawn.
Okay.
But they won't show up in other weeks. If that makes sense.
Are there any mechanics that are going to make it so major guilds feel a need to be on the second the servers come up from a wipe, outside of taking capture points to earn ambient stuff over time?
I think the scouting is probably the biggest one.
Cool. Probably a good way to make money too, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Getting the maps made. Yeah, I'm assuming that'll be the first wave of people into the desert, right?
I have to admit,
scouting mapping.
I got a little nervous when you were like, yeah, once we take this capture point, we're going to make it for our team. And I was like, wait a second, you take the capture point and then it immediately works like for the rest of the week? I was like, is the server going to reset and then everyone's just going to have to go get capture points for the next hour? But no, that sounds great. So the way it works is it actually just does points over time based on who holds it.
Yes.
Cool.
Yep. Exactly that.
All right.
And then
awesome.
your best objective is to build a fortress around it.
And their questions.
And defend the fortress.
Can you hold a buggy on an ornithopter transport and shoot from the turret?
Yeah.
Because if the answer is no, we're gonna need that.
Yeah, I don't know if I've tested that specific one. I know that you can. Might be able to. I actually haven't tested it. So that's a really good question. I know that you can, for example, on sand bikes, sit in the passenger seats and shoot. You can shoot out of the buggy when you're sitting there. You can shoot out of.
Oh my god!
So you can do those things. I have never tested the specific scenario of like picking up a buggy with a turret on top and firing at people.
Because see, now I'm thinking of 5 ornithopters, 5 turreted, just tanks flying. Oh, perfect.
Yeah. That's the stuff that's the sandbox stuff that's fun that people are going to find when the game launches. Right?
Yeah,
that's the stuff that I mean I don't have an answer, but it's entirely possible.
It's a living game, right? It can always be added if it's not there
until they patch it.
Yeah. I don't think it's impossible.
Awesome.
It's probably there. Because we are very lenient about those kind of things because we think it's fun to like make sure that. What was it? The rule of cool. I like that. Exactly. The rule of cool, the rule of fun. That's good. Oh, one thing I did notice. So in the ornithopters, they had the same sand detector as you would have when you're on the ground. I also noticed some of those worms go pretty high into the sky.
Yes, they do.
Do they ever go after flying things?
Yes.
They do.
Yeah.
So they'll jump out of the ground and like try to.
No, you can lose an ornithopter.
I mean, they won't fully emerge, so you won't.
They will like jump out like a dolphin.
Yeah, they'll come up. They'll come up after you if you're too close to the sand for sure.
Very
so don't fly
cool.
Too close.
Okay, well that's awesome. We saw in that presentation a very cool group coordinated spice harvesting in Deep Desert.
Yeah, it was a badass section of that video.
Dumping, one person harvesting, transporters.
It was multiple people.
Guard scouts.
Yeah.
Is there anything like that in the PvE version of the Dark Desert or the Deep Desert, or is that only available in the PvP version?
That's in the PvP area,
only
where the big spoilers are. Yeah. The PvE part of the Deep Desert is all up on the shield wall. So it's in the rocky zone.
Oh, okay. So there's not going to be any worms. It's going to be a lot different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of according to law, right? Like the shield wall stops the Coriolis storm.
Yeah.
And prevents, like, that's where they all live in the books. They live on the other side of the shield wall where it's safe. So that area,
important.
the PvE area is the safe strip. It's still big, right? It's still like, again, 24 kilometers wide and whatever, a couple of kilometers high. So it's still quite a big space at the bottom of the map for PvE to be done.
Very cool. Very cool. So you talked a little bit about these instances that can spawn in the Deep Desert and how they were PvE in the instances. You can zone in as a party, that kind of stuff. But one thing so to get to the instances, you have to take your party through the PvP zone, right?
Yes.
And the
Oh.
instances are full PvP as well.
Oh, wait, I thought the instances were per player. So you're
So
saying,
they're open dungeons.
oh, I totally missed that. I thought it was like Anarchy Online style little instances you were going into. Oh, I didn't realize it was like they're all full PvP dungeons.
Yes, open. Yeah, exactly. Open dungeon spaces. Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, that's certainly more interesting.
I actually thought they were
first thought they were
PvE
PvE
only.
which was why it was a little confusing. You had to go through the PvP zone to get to
So
PvE.
I was mistaken
but
on
that
that
makes
too.
a lot more
I
sense.
thought they
So
were
that is
PvE
kind of the
they're
Darkness
open
Fall
dungeons.
situation.
So
okay. That's
Yeah,
very cool.
yeah.
All right. So that and I'm assuming that's where all the best loot is going to be.
Yes.
Yeah, probably. So
Imperial
as we talk
schematics,
about
yes.
stuff like that, because that absolutely makes things very interesting. How are you guys dealing with like what is the system in place for deep desert safety stuff? Like if I zone out of this instance, am I going to get 60 seconds? Am I zone out? Am I going to have time to run
Well,
somewhere
you don't
or
lose your
teleport
loot, or you don't lose your
or is it going to be the
gear.
kind of thing where, if I zone out and there's 5 people in a semicircle around me, well, here's my stuff, guys.
Well, they don't get your stuff.
Yeah, if remember that you don't drop everything in PvP, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not a full loot game. So that's
You
an
drop some
important thing to
inventory
remember. There's a
items.
30-second timer on logout.
30
right?
seconds.
So if you try to log, yep,
Is that on zone
that's
as well?
the 30 seconds. No, because you can't zone from the deep desert. You have to go back through the PvE area to get out. So there's no time.
What about are the instances in the world? You don't zone in and out of the instances?
Correct.
No, they're just part of the world.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
just walk in the right. Yeah.
Oh.
It's like
That's-
I think you probably ran through.
That's why he said they're not
I
instances.
I
they're
think
public
the one I'm
dungeons.
thinking of was the ship in the bottom part of the map that had you had to like get the key nearby and then that would pop it open. It was a
Yeah.
little PvP area. So
Yeah.
it's basically like that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly,
okay.
exactly that.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I heard the word instance and was thinking, I apparently went on a big tangent that I shouldn't have gone down. Okay, I'm used to like
Yeah.
traditional MMO, like separate zone instances, so that was a little confusing. for me.
No,
That was totally
yeah,
my
no,
bad.
we have instancing only on the like overland map, right? The little map that you move around, and we only have that for the story stuff.
Okay.
really. Right, we don't have instances in the deep desert. And we don't have instances in the Haga Basin, right?
Perfect. So is there any initial plan to handle any type of player griefing in the deep desert?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, this is kind of why we have CS. Like, I think it's so Conan Exiles. When we launched Conan Exiles, we were a much smaller company. We've grown. We have now
little bit.
customer support. Just a little bit. We have customer support. We have customer service. Right. So people will be able to report griefing. People will be able to report things that are incidents like that are happening in the game. So yes, we will do things. We will probably. I don't know if it's clear. I think we have a policy for player behavior as well. Essentially, you could underline it as "Don't be a
dick."
dick."
Yeah.
Essentially, but yeah. So people will be able to be reporting things like griefing. Everybody disagrees on what griefing is. So that's
I wasn't really going to go
that's
into it, but yeah, I was going to be like, so you guys are going to have public guidelines on exactly what griefing is and isn't, right?
I mean, it's impossible. to
Exactly,
do, right?
it
That's
is
why
impossible. Yeah.
it's especially because like we, I give an example of something that happened in the closed beta that was kind of interesting, and I'm sure that the people involved in this will get mad at me for misrepresenting because I'm not 100% on the details. But like, someone got bugged and they could only respawn in the deep desert, and theoretically you should always have a checkpoint that you can respawn at in the
Yes.
southern part of the
Yes.
map. And they got bugged and they couldn't teleport out, right? And so they had to respawn at this one place. And there was a group of players who built a building around their respawn point, and then sort of laughed at them and made fun of them and kept killing them over and over again. And that's
That's the definition
That's
of
griefing,
griefing.
and that's
Okay,
a
cool.
bug.
So
Yeah,
that's
right, like,
something you would take action on that.
100%.
Cool.
And
Okay,
action
nice.
does get taken. So yeah, it's like so that kind of thing for sure. But like, and that's like, especially if like it's properly communicated to people, this is a bug, I'm stuck, right? Like if you keep respawning at the same point over and over again, trying to kill people, and you have the option to respawn somewhere else, that's a different kind of kettle of fish. It's like people are killing me over and over, but I'm kamikazing trying to attack them. That's a different kettle of fish,
Yep.
right? So that's why I find these things, they're very difficult to moderate. It's very difficult to moderate player behavior, and players try to find ways around it. So That's why hard and fast explaining every rule of griefing to people would never work. It's why you need to use discretion, and that's why a human touch, like customer service, is probably the best way to deal with these things.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yep.
So I know we're quickly approaching the end of time here. I just want to can we fit a few more questions, or do you need to head out? I'm sure you're pretty tired.
Oh no, I'm good, man.
Okay, cool.
No, I'm fine. It's like end of day for me. This is my last meeting for the day.
Oh, I love it. Okay, we'll do a few more here and let you go and let you go.
Sure.
So you mentioned that there was a third faction that will help balance the houses on
It's got to be
release
the Fremen.
which led into some interesting thinking from my side. So what do you have plans for servers that become obviously one-sided? We're talking like 90-10.
Well, but that doesn't apply here.
Yeah,
But,
if that happens in a world, it'll be interesting. So the third faction, they're not coming at launch, but they're coming sometime after launch.
Yeah.
The third faction's job will be to keep the Landsrat in balance. Is essentially the way I describe it.
Interesting.
The third faction only get rewarded when the factions finish each week neck and neck.
Oh,
Their
that's
job
cool.
is to ensure balance, and they have a different set of tools. They are not competing in the Landsrat in the way that the other factions are competing.
It's got to be the
They're
Fremen.
playing checkers while the others are playing chess. That's kind of the point of that third faction, and we will bring that in. They're also heavily lore based, and it should work well.
That not only sounds super interesting, but that sounds like an awesome place for solo players. Like that would
Exactly,
be a very like, you don't want to participate in PvP? Cool. You just go and make sure they don't mess each other up too bad. Like,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
kind of fun.
You have the ability to change things you're the Joker in the pack, right? You have the ability to change things in an interesting way. So I think that's kind of our goal. And yeah, like in a 90-10 scenario, some of the auto balance stuff will have kicked in, and it shouldn't be that way. Like as long as we have, let's say we end up with like, as long as the seaches on the server, like there's, let's say there's, I don't know, 20 seaches. If like 19 of them are Atreides and only one of them is Harkonnen, still there should be enough people to be able to make a difference for the Harkonnen side if the auto balancing stuff is kicking in correctly. So we'll see how that goes. And we'll be monitoring it as well. The other thing we can do is sort of encourage like, open more seaches and encourage people to move there on that world, which from different factions, right? So we can build up the Atreides, we can give signing bonuses and things like that.
Awesome. So definitely the approach of using honey instead of the stick kind of thing. That's great.
Yeah. The stick is, my wife's a child psychologist, so she spent a lot of time beating into me that you don't use the stick on children.
I got 3 small boys.
Honey.
I hear you.
Yeah. You know the rules.
Oh yes, know the rules. I know the rules.
So I treat players like that. It's like they would always rather be rewarded than punished, and I agree with that. I think it's fair.
Heck yeah. So I have real quick 2 quick suggestions at the end of our stream here while we're doing this.
Yeah.
The first one is there a way to add a manual refresh button to the Landsrad thing? So in case something happens I'm not expecting, I'm not staring at it like an idiot for like 3 minutes when it never updates with the thing I'm expecting.
Yeah, I mean, it should only be on a 15-second refresh.
Yeah, I was going to say it refreshes every
I didn't know if it
15
was like a few
seconds.
minutes.
Not-
That could be a
No,
little
no.
No.
Yeah.
It was on a minute the first time they implemented it, and we made them. And honestly, that's just a performance question, right? Like, so they implemented it with a minute because the coders were being like, oh, having to update this and check all these things is going to be heavy on the server, and then they were like, oh no, it's fine. Like, and then we made it 15 seconds. So I think it's only 15 seconds before Landsrad refresh.
Well,
so
perfect.
I can talk about a manual button, but I don't know if
you could you know what, just put the button in there, but don't have it do anything. It's like the closed door button on an elevator, right? You just keep pressing it, and maybe just make us feel good. That's
Lovely.
fine. Gamers will love it. Also, just random small thing I noticed. I loved that you guys showcased, because I did not catch the fact that I could just wheel in my bike, go into my storage, select my bike, and do it over. But one thing I did notice is that the quick deposit is when you're looking at a crate. Is there any way to quick deposit from a vehicle?
You can quick deposit to a vehicle. I don't think we have quick deposit from a vehicle to a crate, because we wouldn't know where the output would be.
Well, it would be on the storage. It was on the right side of the screen, right? Because you have the storage on the right side of the screen and then the vehicle on the left side of the screen.
You're talking about
I'm talking about like if I
Oh, yeah.
drive
You're
in.
talking about once it's open.
Exactly.
You're talking about once
Yes.
the UI is
Yes.
open. Because quick deposit's always done from the outside.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, we don't have that functionality set up. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, I was gonna play your game, but maybe Dune Awakening 2 we could talk about. No,
I apologize.
it's totally just the fact that you can do that is awesome. In fact, one of the things I talk about all the time is that one of my biggest goals to this game is not only how much you guys are focusing on base building, but how much QOL is there.
Yeah,
there's
a lot of quality of life
and
stuff.
like it actually frustrated me that my refiner that was making my bars, I had to go and take the bars out of the refiner over to the chest to use it. I was like, this isn't Dune.
Well, that's nice. Yeah, we have. That's actually one of the things I think Scott talked about it. Like just having a beta running and having people just complain is some of the best game dev feedback you get, because it's like I play the game and I whine about things. I'm whining about a couple of things now.
That's my job, dude. To play games and whine about them. Yeah,
but it's great, right? Like because it's like, oh yeah, like this is a really good idea. I think actually, yeah, I think I watched your stream. I'll confess, of the beta, and one of the things you said was like, why is quick deposit a hold? And I think it's a press now.
Yes, thank you. Oh, perfect.
It's like I was just like, yeah, well, guys, why did we do that? And they're like, yeah, no, that's true, and I think it just got changed, like,
dude.
A couple of days.
That is amazing.
That stuff is great.
Wait,
it's just fast, right? It's
right before the stream. Was that the thing you were talking about with Conan Exiles a long time ago?
No, the Conan Exiles thing is even better.
What is this?
This is
Let's hear some applause.
Or, I don't know, maybe you'll think it's lame, but I think it's fun. I had never watched streamers in my life, right? Streamers were like 2016, 2017 was when it's Conan Exiles was our first game that had any streamers playing it. And I was watching you stream. Probably no offense, because you were just like one of the more popular ones, and I was like, oh, who's this guy? I'll watch this. I think it might have been the first time I ever watched a streamer. And you were playing Conan Exiles. You came to this building through a Darfari camp that we'd built. And you clicked, and we'd put a bit of voiced over lore in there. And I remember this so clearly, because you were like, there's got to be a secret here. Funcom don't do stuff like this. They don't just like put stuff here. And you were looking around trying to find a way to find the secret. And I was sitting at my desk at work at the time watching, going, oh, there's no secret there, because it's like, there's nothing, it's like it was our early access game. And I was sitting watching, and I was so frustrated on my end, because like when we made our first dungeon in the game, that location where you were frustrated and searching for a secret, I put in first dungeon entrance in Conan Exiles. You have to drag a character onto that spot and slit their throat. Their blood falls on the ground, and that opens the entrance to the dungeon, because I could not live with the idea that we weren't living up to your standards.
I am honored to have elicited a throat slit blood unlocked door. That's I
gotta have a
think
secret.
That's going on my resume. Dude, that's amazing.
it was really cool. Yeah. So that was like
God,
a
that
total
was
influence for how
6
that
years
door
ago?
worked.
7? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And here we are
Yeah,
now
it's crazy.
doing an interview on your brand new game that comes out in a week. Wow.
Yes.
That's very cool.
I didn't have gray hair then.
Yeah, I didn't either. We can commiserate together after this. Man, thank you so much. Joel Bylos, the creative director of Dune Awakening, coming out on June 5th for Advanced Access, or was it January or June? January 10th? June 10th. June 10th. I love Natasha. She's so good. June 10th for full release, June 5th for early access, or Advanced Access, not early access. Big thank you, of course, Joel. It's been awesome. I would love, if you don't mind, like maybe we could do this again in a few months, like post-mortem, and talk about like what worked, what hopefully everything did, but maybe what didn't. We could talk about all that and how you guys are going to address it, all that fun stuff. But it was great talking to you, man. And thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for putting up with me.
Oh,
and,
please.
I really appreciate it.
This was a blast. Thanks, brother.
Yes.
All right, so that is a good cutoff point since they just wrapped that up. So, I mean, most of that stuff we've already heard or known about, but to get clarification on the Imperial testing stations in the deep desert, I was also under the impression that they were PvE dungeons that you just had to travel to. So you were taking the risk of travel to get to them, but they were going to be PvE once you got there. But it turns out that the ones in the deep desert are in fact PvP. So, yeah, that's good to know. That's something where it's like an extra activity that, if you want those really nice T6 Imperial permits, you're gonna have to be willing to get out there and run the risk. but that's good to know. That was good to know. That was something that I actually didn't know. So really cool interview between Cohhcarnage and Joel for Dune Awakening. I will be starting on June 5th, bright and early, alongside everybody else who's starting off on the Head Start access. We'll see you then. Don't forget, I have a Dune Awakening playlist down below with a ton of guides and other news coverage and beyond for those of you who want to go above and beyond. And there's an affiliate link down below as well if you guys end up wanting to purchase the game. I get a kickback from that, just full disclosure. Thanks for tuning in. Live streams are every single morning at 5 a.m. Central, and I'll catch everybody in the next one. Stay safe out there, and bless the maker.